Many, many years ago, when they first settled the island, there was no honeybee on the island. And so many hives from Italy and Liguria were brought to the island and were established here. The population that we currently have are from those early hives, and it has been DNA tested of recent too to be found the most pure strain of Ligurian bee left in the world.
When beekeeping was new in Australia, they wanted to set up one place where there was only one type of bee, so they were thinking about the future, and the ones in Liguria were chosen to be the calmest and the nicest bees they could bring out.
Kangaroo Island is a special place. We are isolated from the mainland and bees only travel about 3 k's. And so that distance keeps us pure in many ways from disease and other pests that can be a threat to the bees.
We're very grateful to the people that had the foresight to declare this a bee sanctuary like 138 years ago. And it's because we've got the purest strain of Ligurian bees in the world now that we're lucky enough to be able to have this such rare and unique honey.
The reason we have such a unique honey on Kangaroo Island is because of the amount of native flora that we have and the variety of it. Each plant that we have on the island, it produces a different nectar. Each nectar will taste different to another plant, and not every single plant flowers every year. Because a third of the island is national park, we just have an array of plants and species which give us that unique flavour that comes from diversity. It is possible that we can pick our bees up and we can move them to pockets of the island where there are certain flowers being produced, and we can get unique flavours that come from that area. Because of that, the honey is unique specifically to that area of the island, and it may not be found anywhere else. When we're able to put the bees on the land and we're able to gather the nectar from the trees, the bees can then turn that nectar into wonderful honey, and the bees are happy. It's happily ever after.
Australia's Kangaroo Island, meaning the entire island is now under bushfire threat.
Fires raging out of control in the...
Fire jumped containment lines and tore through the Flinders Chase National Park.
At least 100,000 hectares has been burnt.
On one of the darkest days Kangaroo Island has ever experienced.
When the island was burnt, that area that was burnt consists of close to 70% of our productive area when it comes to beekeepers and the flower that we used to harvest from. The headache that we're having with that is that many of those plants that are rejuvenating in replacement of those that were burnt still are not at that maturity level where they'll start to set flower. The replacement of nectar that we used to get may not occur for many, many more years to come.
Even now, 3 years after the fires, there's still a long road to recovery. This year, with the particularly wet spring, we're only at 10% of a normal year's production per hive. There will be fewer jars of honey on the shelves until then.
These are wild Ligurian bees that are living in these caves here. We come to see how the bees are going since the fires. We find them in other places on the island wild like this, but this has probably got the biggest amount of wild bees in one cave. There has been the bushfire come through here, and the combs, you can see a bit of damage on the wax on the combs, it's black. And there's also a lot of new comb that's built afterwards, and the bees have recovered from the fires. So most of the combs have got bees on them now. With the Ligurian bees, it's good to have these bees still existing in the wild that we can use for breeding.
So in regards to building the bee population on the island, there was over 1,000 hives that were burnt, that were managed by beekeepers. We had many groups and individuals come to the island and assist beekeepers in rebuilding new boxes, new frames, and then there was a lengthy process of then splitting hives and creating new hives to replace the ones that have been lost. Since the fires, most beekeepers have been really resilient. They've changed some of the ways that they're doing things, they've implemented different practices within their business, they've diversified very, very well. The rejuvenation is a long process, but over time, we will see some amazing things occur, and hopefully we can get back to some of those honey flows that we once had.
The honey is like tempering right now, so on the outside it's a bit crunchy, but on the inside it's starting to become more liquid. With Kangaroo Island, what stands out to me right away is the different types of honey they have. They have basically back vintages. This one's in 2019. The smell's incredible. Like, I keep going back to it, I just want to keep smelling it. What's great is, as well as the honey is raw, so it hasn't been manipulated by being pasteurized or being warmed up. And that way you can get the true delicacies of different flavors of what's going on at that particular time of the year. I think that's pretty cool about honey is it's a certain point of time preserved. With honey as well, you can't just open the jar and use it, but you can manipulate it, you can ferment it, you can reduce it, you can thin it out, you can char it, you can burn it. And I think once you realize how you can use honey, not just out of the jar, it creates new opportunities, new flavors, and new ways to enhance your dishes. And that's where I'm really looking for, is what's after the sweetness of the honey. That just blows my mind. This is the real deal.
Many of us beekeepers on the island feel very much like a custodian of the Ligurian bee. We try and do what we can to make sure that their longevity and their life is preserved. And the honey itself, in a lot of ways, has changed my life. The future looks positive for Kangaroo Island bees.